Today we're going to do a little drawing exercise focusing on our application of tone, and we're going to create a table like this where we've got 8 boxes, and within each box we have a slightly different gradient of tone. So number 8 is the darkest tone. Now to do this I used an HB pencil, and an HB pencil is good for all sorts of different things, writing as well as drawing, but it's sometimes not the best pencil to use for the darkest tones, and you end up, if I'm on the paper, you end up getting a lot of shine and reflection on the camera when you lean very heavily, whereas with the 4B here, which is a softer pencil, I should be able to get a darker effect, although it's still looking quite shiny. So let's start. We've got a fresh piece of paper here, and what we're going to do is draw one horizontal line, and then slightly further down, let's bring it up a wee bit, another horizontal line, and then we're going to join those two lines up at either end, and then we're going to half that down the middle there, and half it again, and then half it again, and then again, and so on. So we should end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes. Right, you can start that. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is start with the box number 8, because that was the darkest box. So I'm not going to lean very heavily at first. I'm just going to put a nice layer of tone. And I think I prefer to apply my tone diagonally, but you could go horizontally or vertically, or you could go even round in circles like that, whichever you feel most comfortable with. I think it's slightly quicker if I go diagonally. So change direction and contradict myself. Right, never mind. Just trying to get this box filled from edge to edge. Okay, I'm changing the direction as I go all the time. So this box can be quite heavy with tone. You don't need to worry about mistakes in this box, because you can apply the tone as heavily as you like. Now, by the time you've finished that box, your pencil should be quite flat on one side, which makes it easier to go into the next box. This time, start a bit lighter, so don't put as much pressure on your pencil. And the idea here is that you apply the tone so that you can build it up gradually. So you've got complete control over the tone on that box. Now I reckon number 8 could be a bit darker, so I'm going to go over the top of number 8, and you see I'm building this up in layers, and as I do so, less and less of the paper shows through, and more of the paper gets covered until you can't really put any more pencil on the paper, and the paper becomes overloaded. And if that happens to you when you're doing a drawing, you can't rub it out. You always end up with smudges or shadows. So be careful of that when you're drawing. So be absolutely certain that that's where you put your darkest tone before you lean so heavily. Okay, and number 7 could probably get another layer now. But you should always aim to have a difference in tone between these boxes. Right, number 6 should be slightly lighter than number 7, so again, use your pencil lightly for the first layer. Now I've seen a lot of people apply their tone so that we've got big gaps between the tone like that, which is okay sometimes. But for this type of exercise, let's try and be neat and controlled. That's number 5's quite dark. Number 6 could be a wee bit darker still. And if number 6 is getting too dark, then number 7 could be a bit darker, but not as dark as number 8. So it's all about balancing this out. And just going over the top there. So number 6, number 5, number 4, this is where it gets trickier. Number 4, we are going to just skiff the pencil over the surface of the paper so that the pencil scrapes the surface of the paper, just very, very lightly. So less pencil on number 4. And if there's not that much difference, again, go back over number 5, make that a little bit darker so you can see the difference between these blocks of tone. And then number 3, again, we're going to be very, very careful, skiffing the surface of the pencil just over the paper, like that. And then again, number 2 is so light, you can barely see it. And number 1, we could leave it white, I suppose. Or we could just put a tiny amount of tone on that, just ever so slightly. Now I've got a slight tone in there. We can go back into number 2, darken that a wee bit more. Number 3. So use your eye to consider which tones are darker, which tones are lighter, where you need to go back over the tone. Number 4 is going to become like number 5, so I'm going to go back over number 5 and so on. You'll notice that as we get darker tones, the lines in between these blocks start to disappear, which is what you want to happen in some types of drawing. Right, so you've got a gradual change from light to dark. Look at the difference between number 1 and number 8. Another good exercise while we're on tone is just to try and repeat that but without the boxes. So very, very, very light tone, hardly touching the paper for number 1. Number 2, gradually getting darker. Number 3. Number 4, again gradually getting darker, trying to match up your tones. And if it doesn't work, go back over the top of the tone until it does match up. That looks about right for number 5. Number 6, let's go back over the top. So notice I don't leave any gaps because this is blending the tone. And then number 7 is getting darker still. Go back over it a few more times and it should be nice and smooth. Number 8, and we're starting to really lean quite heavily on the pencil here. Going back over the tone. And you want to avoid things like, I'll just show you, you want to avoid things like these stripes, these big jumps in tone, which I see often. So try and blend that in. Go back over the top of these tones. Just to make sure you've got those tones applied to match up with the boxes. Okay, so that's given us what we call blending, and there we have our boxes of tonal variation, or different tonal gradients.